The video game that has been dubbed the deadliest video game of all. Shrouded in secrecy for decades, this arcade game created a lot of fear and commotion for something that never actually existed. Yes, today we're talking about the retro urban myth, the arcade machine known as Polybius. Hello! Welcome to Brainspill, the laziest show on the internet. My name is Tank, and I'm not gonna lie, this entire premise of this machine is a horror movie waiting to happen, and I'm really surprised that nobody has made a blockbuster movie on this yet. So, what is Polybius? The urban legend says that in 1981, an unheard of new arcade game appeared in several suburbs of Portland, Oregon, simply going by the name of Polybius. The thing that created so much buzz around this thing was just how addictive and popular the game actually was. Reports from people, allegedly at the time, would say that the machine was so popular that people wanted to keep going back and playing it more and more and more, which resulted in big long queues of people waiting to play this game, and apparently reports of people even fighting to try and play on the machine. Which is pretty insane itself, but when I tell you why that's the case, things are gonna get even more wild. The reason is that these machines were not just any old gaming machines. They were apparently set up and ran by secret agents in order to harvest data from their users. This is some Black Mirror stuff we're talking about today. This harks back to the idea of MK Ultra in the 70s, where agents would use hallucinogenics to control people, which was not too long after this whole thing was happening, so the idea isn't that far-fetched. So if you see something and don't quite know how to explain it, then why not just blame the shadowy secret government that are plotting every single move and pulling us all up like puppets on strings? I mean, it can't be anything else, am I right? However, there are many people that do believe that this actually happened, and games were the next big thing, so who else would want to capitalise on this new generation than the shady underworld itself? All of these ideas created the urban legend that we know today called Polybius. These machines were apparently big black boxes that were pretty much unmarked, and on the screens themselves they had many numbers and letters flying around the screen. Basically, some form of mind control that some might say. If I was going to put my tinfoil hat on, I'd probably say that this is the secret government trying to brainwash everybody, but who knows. Because they may be, I don't know, are trying to make you think and feel every single emotion that you've got whenever you're playing this game, all for the purposes of harvesting your data. You know, almost like mind control. This seems somewhat believable on the fact that many companies actually tested their new games in arcades such as the one in Oregon, and if they did well, these machines would be shipped out much wider. These test machines would arrive in big black boxes, so it would be simply another new game coming in. No teen playing any games in the arcade would suspect anything more than that. It was also reported that players who supposedly played the game suffered from a series of unpleasant side effects, including insomnia, night terrors, seizures, amnesia, and hallucinations. However, the legend of the machine and what it could be never came to light for many people in the local Oregon area until after the machines were removed. Many people were highly conscious of the fact that they'd never seen a cabinet like this before, even the people that went to the arcades quite frequently. Nor had they seen any men in black lurking around the Pac-Man machine. It all just didn't make sense. This all sounds pretty odd, and people that used to frequent these arcades at the time, many of them don't remember seeing this thing. And you must think that surely we must have one of these machines that we can analyse and inspect to figure out whether Polybius is in fact a government-controlled mind-controlling device. Well, unfortunately we do not, because none of the machines have ever been recorded or even taken. Apparently the machines were in these arcades for about a month, with these men in black figures lurking around keeping an eye on things, and then one night they all suddenly disappeared without a trace, and nothing was ever seen or heard of again in the name Polybius. This all sounds pretty creepy, but let me say that from all the research that's happened in recent years and investigations into it to try and find any evidence that this thing ever existed, the conclusion is that Polybius simply didn't exist. Or that's what the deep state would want you to think. So let me rephrase that. Polybius never existed, as far as we're aware. This idea was rebuffed via a number of measures, such as magazines and media at the time who report on video game culture and news never made any mention of a game called Polybius, and you'd think that a game that had people queuing around the block and fighting to play the machine would get reported on, but there was simply nothing at the time. So yeah, nobody remembered these machines despite the hysteria that was apparently around it. No cabinets or machines have ever been found, no ROM dumps have ever happened, there is pretty much no evidence to prove that this thing ever existed. Ever. Either because it didn't exist, or, well, the government did an incredibly good job hiding it, but who knows. Of course, there are the occasional leaks, shall we say, but they're more likely fakes which are normally routed out and exposed shortly afterwards. So nothing with any legitimacy has come to light as of yet. The idea of such a cabinet existing at the time might not be so far-fetched, mind you, as many people would occasionally fall ill whilst playing video games for so long. There was one instance in the very same Portland arcade where two people who fell ill on the same day in 1981 occurred, due to playing games in the arcade, with one person collapsing due to a migraine headache after playing the game Tempest, and another person who had stomach pains after playing the game Asteroids for 28 hours straight, who filmed their attempt to try and break a world record. 28 hours, my god, I could barely play Asteroids for 28 minutes, let alone hours. I mean, no wonder people thought that there might have been something wrong with this machine, if people were getting sick all the time. It probably wasn't the fact that the machine was trying to control your mind, but more so just the fact that you've been stood there playing it for 28 hours. I don't really know how else to justify that, but, well, Asteroids isn't that great of a game. These sorts of things, especially amongst gamers who were dedicated to the arcade at the time, might be thinking of these fanciful conspiracy theories inside the very walls of the arcade they enjoy. So the idea of a machine like this is certainly a popular one, something which might have had an inkling of truth somewhere, but then has been rolled up and embellished into the big dark conspiracy theory that we all think of today. So that is probably the most logical explanation behind Polybius. Arcade machines probably aren't out there to control your mind. Maybe. Something to end this video is something to wrap your head around, and it's the origin of the name of the machine itself, as it shares the same name with the classical Greek historian Polybius, born in Arcadia, hint hint, and known for his assertion that historians should never report what they cannot verify through interviews or eyewitnesses. So I'll let you mull that one over for a while as, well, come to your own conclusion. If you guys like that video, here's another one just like it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Fantastic.